let's get political. I'm very nervous talking about politics, but I think, as you'll hear me say in this discussion, and of course, if anybody is interested in chiming in on your thoughts, I'm happy to hear them too. But a lot of the people who I follow who have much larger platforms than I do, when things get political or whenever there's a political issue coming up, even if they are not in politics, they discuss their political views on things, and a lot of times they are met with followers who will comment on their Instagram posts or other social media platforms, content, whatever they're doing, they're posting, and tell them, keep politics out of it. So this is kind of what started this whole discussion for me about the politics of, specifically in my world, the politics of healthcare and education. And I work as a healthcare provider, so I work as a registered dietitian. I work with patients and clients in the outpatient clinical setting, I guess you could call it. So people come to see me when they have a chronic condition and they want to manage it. I do take health insurance, and this is where I'm going with all this too, because a lot of what I do is trying to be more accessible to communities and to individuals who might not be able to afford out-of-pocket services. And in our country, we have a variety of options of how people can access healthcare. So I'm trying to make sure that my services are accessible, and in doing so, getting credentialed through insurance companies. So I won't go all into the details of what insurance credentialing entails, but I'll just share a little bit about, sometimes they approve you to be on the panel, sometimes they do not, but the overarching ways that insurance companies will allow certain services or then also reimburse certain services is through policies and the administrative choices that are made by elected officials. So usually we start on the national level and then it goes down state by state, as I'm sure I do not have to explain to a lot of you, as you're seeing in the discussions around current healthcare issues and services. Every state might handle something a little bit differently. So that's how politics can affect us as healthcare providers. We might be limited in what we can provide as far as services are concerned. There also might be access issues as far as people who may or may not have the ability, the location, the funds to access our services. So again, this is along the lines of what is known as a social determinants of health, where the responsibility isn't solely on the individual, it's more about the access that is given, or the equal access, I should say, that is given to everybody. So that is my healthcare hat. And then in my education life, so I'm an undergraduate and graduate adjunct lecturer up here in the Bronx at Lehman College. And so nothing, as far as I can see right now, is really affecting me as far as curriculum or content that I can share, because we're also in New York City, so we do things a little bit differently here than the rest of the country. But in elementary school, high school, you'll see some conversations around curriculum changes, what may be able or allowed to be discussed in a classroom setting and what might not be. So it's important, I think, to educate yourself and learn a little bit about what people are standing for, or on the local level too. So if you have, people who are running for community representatives or your senators, your governors, making sure you do a little bit of research about what they stand for, who they are, and become a better qualified voter, and know that if you're voting for somebody, that you're in alignment with them, and not be afraid to hold people accountable too, because a lot of the promises that people make at the beginning of their campaigns might not be able to be executed, or for whatever reason get held up in the process of that. And so if you are electing people that you think are going to be aligning with what you hope your values are, and then you see them not be able to make good on those promises, you're allowed to write them, and you're allowed to inquire, and you're allowed to ask them to maybe, take into account your opinion or your position on a certain thing. We're talking about politics, which makes me really uncomfortable. I grew up, maybe some of you did too, I grew up in a household where, we were told never to speak about religion or politics or money, and I'm slowly learning or unlearning that, And I'm learning that it's okay to speak about some of these things. It's okay to inquire. It's okay to be curious, and it's okay to be transparent. And that's really one of the things I want to talk to all of you about today too. Those of us on social media platforms, whether we are providing a service in a separate part of our life, like me, right? I'm doing other things on in my kind of like full-time world, my private practice, where I see patients and clients, and I offer up on social media a lot of free information, education information. I share with you my personality, things that I do during my day. I try to check in and make sure all of you are okay with adhering to as best as possible your wellness habits. So things like that I do for the fun of it. Other social media content creators might be doing this as a full-time job, and that's what they make their money for. But I think a lot of us have to understand that nobody owes you, as the follower, as the viewer, nobody owes you anything, right? We're trying to be our authentic selves on here. And so, yeah, we get it, right? If we say something that you might disagree with, we hopefully appreciate respectful discourse and questions that might be brought up so that we can clarify our positions on certain things. But we don't love trolls, we don't love haters, we don't love people telling us that we don't have the right to say something, because hello, it's our platform. So I was kind of watching this conversation take place over the past couple of months with, as I mentioned, people that I follow in the healthcare world and somewhat more celebrity type of influencers as well, and they get political, or maybe they don't get political because they're afraid to comment on something for fear of losing followers or having a backlash or losing brand deals or whatever the case may be. So I just wanted to open up this conversation and just share with all of you that it's okay to learn. It's okay to educate. It's also okay to hold people accountable for things. It's not okay to be mean. And as far as I'm concerned, I definitely don't know a lot about the legal system or how the judicial system works. I live with a lawyer who's very good at explaining all of those things to me, but I tend to go with my gut on a lot of things as well. So if I see someone who is in alignment with my own values, then I'm going to be curious about what they stand for. I'm going to see what their track record is like, and I'm going to make my decisions accordingly when I go and I vote. If somebody is giving me the total creeps, or if they have not held their word in past elections, or if they, have a lot of controversy around them, I'm going to I'll probably learn a little bit more about what that's all about. And I'm trying to be really careful with my words here too, because I don't want to alienate anybody or make you feel uncomfortable as I'm speaking. But listen, I'm in healthcare. I want everybody to have equal access to it. I want it to be affordable. I want people to understand that science and health, things are necessary. Things are going to hopefully, be able to be supported. And the way that those things are, those services, as I mentioned before, or reimbursements, is based on policies and programs and funding, and all that stuff comes from the top down. So whoever your elected officials are, if they are in alignment, or if they're just speaking a big game and you want to learn a little bit more about them, make sure you go onto their websites, check in to see if there are interviews being done, what kind of language they're using, how it makes you feel, and whether or not you think that you might want to vote for those people. Some of the things that have come up this week as well is, the policies around patient care, public health priority, access to certain services, vaccinations, etc. And also in my world, food and nutrition. So whether it's food banks or supplemental programs that are available, or farm agriculture, sustainability issues and concerns, things that I feel like I'm really interested about. Again, I'm going to look a little bit more deeply into what those programs are that exist, and hopefully, again, the people who I'm electing or voting to elect will include those as priorities, because that's important to me. I want to make sure everybody has access to what they need as far as public health services and food and nutrition issues as well. For us, Lehman College I think it's a nonprofit school. There might be some private schools and so on. Again, the way people are elected into even the officials and the administration of a particular facility like that is important for me as well, because that can affect the teaching hours, the money that we make, the curriculum changes, and also the access that our student community has to certain services on campus as well. As a professional, so I'm not a member anymore. I might eventually join back again of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. So this is an umbrella membership organization for dietitians like myself. Every year you pay a fee, and you get services and resources that the membership provides to you as a healthcare professional. But they also have things that are public facing. So they have a lot of action alerts of things that are related to food and nutrition, especially when it comes to, like I mentioned before, insurance reimbursement and services that are covered under what our scope is, our medical nutrition therapy, the services that we provide as dietitians, that is covered through, again, certain funding and insurance. We're trying to expand what people can have access to, because not everybody meets certain criteria, but they still need to go to the doctor, or they still need to see a healthcare professional, or maybe want to prevent something from happening if there is a family history of certain chronic diseases, etc. So it's important for me not just to be a passive professional, right? I'm trying to make sure, especially in my capacity as an educator as well, I try to make sure I share current events with my students. I try to get their insight into things as well, because we're all from different generations and different ages, so that's also interesting to see what everybody's beliefs are. Also, how religion plays a role, how culture plays a role with a lot of these things too, what people believe or hear as far as information or misinformation or disinformation, and then when research comes up too, how we're learning about that as well, the funding behind research, how things change over the course of the decades that progress, what we learn, hopefully do better, know better, etc. Joining advocacy groups that are focused on, in my case, again, healthcare and education. Professional organizations that you might already be a part of, they usually might have like an extension of that and have an advocacy group there. Social media is a great way to learn too, but again, with caution, not everybody on here is maybe disseminating the proper information, or might be quite one-sided. So it's always good to kind of see and learn a little bit about both sides. And then if you really are wanting to make your voice heard, signing petitions or writing or creating a petition yourself, creating an opinion piece that you can post somewhere, going up the chain. I understand a lot of us might feel like our voices don't mean much or matter, but I assure you they do. I hope that they do. I can't live in a world that is not the truth, because it makes me very sad, because then what's the point, right? What's the point of trying to do your best and live with purpose or lead with compassion, as I said, if not for the fact that we can make a difference in maybe either our smaller circles or even something national or global. Participating in civic duties. Y'all, if you don't know if you're registered to vote, I highly encourage you right this minute, go to vote.org and check to see if you are currently registered. Check where your polling place is. Some places, I believe, I don't know if it's everybody, or some have mail-in options. So unfortunately, we don't have election day off as a federal holiday. So if you can't leave, you might be able to mail in your vote as an absentee vote. Encourage others to do the same, whatever they're doing. Take a stance and see, however your position lies, and make sure that you're reading up, because it's not just the national elected officials. There's usually other policies and programs that are also part of the election cycle. So reading up a little bit about what else is on the ballot, that could be helpful. You can volunteer for the campaigns or the registration drives, or you can volunteer to sit at the registration desk when people are checking in. And learning a little bit, giving yourself some time to read through things, talk to people, because a lot of stuff is very high level language. Maybe we don't understand it. Talk to some people who might be able to explain that to you. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. But like I was saying before, recognize that some people might have opposing thoughts and beliefs as you do. And I think it's important to be respectful with this. I also am not opposed to walking away from relationships where I feel if we're not in alignment, then I'm not comfortable with having that person in my life. I might be obligated to have them in my life because they're a family member or a close friend, but if we don't have the same values and for what I stand for, I'm not going to feel comfortable being with somebody that I feel is so deeply opposed to, again, what I feel is like, civil liberties and human rights and equal opportunities for everyone. I feel like I can't be apathetic. I also want to encourage everybody, if you are not comfortable following somebody on social media who is including discussions around politics in their content, then you can just go. You can just go. You can just scroll on by, right? You don't have to get all heated up on something. You don't have to police anybody and tell them that they shouldn't be speaking about that, because that's their platform. That's their right to do it. And, or you can be courteous and you can ask questions and you can ask people to share with you resources so you can learn a little bit more. Maybe you change your mind about something and maybe you don't, and that's maybe okay. Please be well, treat yourselves well, and I'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.